Cause to misery, a feeling of guilt.
Berry Gordy built the greatest hit factory in music history, and then he destroyed the careers of the very stars who made it famous. Diana Ross, Marvin Gaye, the Four Tops. One by one, they were pushed out, bought out, or forced to walk away from the only home they ever knew.
Lord can set me free, and darling, oh.
And the reasons Berry Gordy never wanted you to find out? They are darker than you think. Stay right here, because by the time we get to #1 on this list, everything you thought you knew about Motown's golden age will never look the same again.
Just as show my mind, baby.
Number 10, the Marvelettes.
Oh, you better wait a minute, wait a minute.
Most people forget that the Marvelettes were Motown's first #1 act. Not Diana Ross, not Marvin Gaye. The Marvelettes. In 1961, their debut single, Please Mr. Postman, shot straight to the top of the Billboard Hot 100, making them the very first Motown group to ever reach that summit. Berry Gordy handed them the blueprint, and they delivered. But by the mid-1960s, something shifted inside Hitsville, USA. And it had everything to do with one name Berry Gordy kept pushing to the front of the line. As Diana Ross and the Supremes consumed more of Gordy's personal attention and resources, the Marvelettes found themselves slowly starved of the quality songwriting they once enjoyed. Motown's legendary in-house production team, Holland Dozier Holland, began redirecting their best material to the Supremes. In sessions grew further apart, promotional budgets dried up. Lead singer Gladys Horton later said she felt invisible inside a label she helped build from nothing. By 1969, internal tensions, including personal health struggles, and a group lineup that had shifted multiple times, pushed the Marvelettes toward an exit that never got the send-off it deserved. They released their final Motown album and quietly disappeared from the roster with barely a press release. The label that owed them everything gave them almost nothing on the way out. The Marvelettes were not fired in a dramatic showdown, they were simply allowed to fade, which in many ways was even more cruel. What makes this story even harder to sit with is what happened to lead singer Gladys Horton after she left. She suffered a stroke in the 1990s that severely impacted her ability to perform, and the Motown machine that had profited so heavily from her voice offered no public tribute, no meaningful support. The group that gave Motown its first #1 record died quietly, and the label never looked back. Number 9, Eddie Kendricks. Eddie Kendricks had one of the most extraordinary voices in the entire history of soul music. That piercing, impossibly light falsetto was the sonic signature of the Temptations through some of their greatest recordings. Just My Imagination, The Way You Do the Things You Do, and yet by 1971, Eddie Kendricks walked away from Motown feeling undervalued, underpaid, and artistically suffocated. The tension had been building for years. Kendricks wanted to move in a funkier, more independent direction. He watched as the Temptations' sound shifted towards psychedelic soul under producer Norman Whitfield, a direction Kendricks respected but did not feel was his future. He pushed for more creative control. Motown's infrastructure in the early 1970s was not designed to accommodate individual artistic visions unless your name happened to be Stevie Wonder. When Kendricks finally secured his release and signed with Tamla, technically a Motown subsidiary, then later with Arista, he proved every doubt wrong.
Just knowing your love was near when times were bad.
His 1973 solo hit, Keep On Truckin', went all the way to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100,
Kept the world from closing in on
giving him the solo validation Motown never offered him internally.
my fall and spring.
But the industry is unforgiving, and without Motown's promotional machine behind him, his chart momentum eventually slowed.
I was blessed.
Eddie Kendricks deserved to be treated like a superstar from day one, and it took leaving to prove it.
The day I found you.
Tragically, Kendricks was diagnosed with lung cancer in 1992 and passed away just months later. He was 50 years old.
Feel my whole world around you.
The Temptations were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame that same year, and Eddie Kendricks, frail but present, stood on that stage one final time. It was the last time most of the world saw him. Motown never gave him his flowers while he could still smell them.
You're part of every thought I think.
Quick question, are you subscribed? If not, you're part of the 99% who watch and disappear. Here's the problem, YouTube won't show you our next video unless you subscribe. So if you want more untold music stories like this, hit that button right now, 2 seconds, do it before you forget.
Number 8. David Ruffin.
I'm gonna walk away from love.
David Ruffin did not just leave Motown, he had to be physically removed from the Temptations tour bus. That is not a metaphor. In 1968, after years of escalating ego clashes with the group and with Motown management, Ruffin literally refused to get off a tour bus, demanding star billing that the label was not willing to give him. The situation had become completely untenable. Ruffin's voice was one of the most raw, emotionally devastating instruments in soul history. His performance on My Girl alone is enough to cement his legacy forever. But as the Temptations grew into a genuine cultural phenomenon, Ruffin's behavior grew increasingly erratic.
It's not that I don't love you.
He began showing up late to recording sessions, and he pushed for his name to appear above the group name in promotional materials, a demand that directly threatened the collective identity Berry Gordy had built and profited from. Behind the scenes, substance abuse was escalating into a full crisis that Motown was not equipped, or perhaps not willing to address with the care it demanded.
I don't understand, so I'm leaving.
When Ruffin was eventually ousted and replaced by Dennis Edwards, Motown moved on with extraordinary speed. Ruffin's subsequent solo career on Motown produced some genuinely strong work, including the deeply personal My Whole World Ended. But he never recaptured the commercial heights of the Temptations era. His story is not just about a man who lost a group, it is about an institution that failed someone who needed far more than hit records. David Ruffin died in 1991 from a drug overdose, and he was 50 years old. Reports at the time painted a picture of a man who had been largely forgotten by the very industry he helped build. A limousine driver said to have been sent by Eddie Murphy brought him to a hospital, but it was too late. The voice of My Girl died without the safety net that Motown's millions should have helped provide. Number 7. The Four Tops. Here is a fact that should stop you cold. Berry Gordy allowed the Four Tops to walk out of Motown and did almost nothing to stop them. Four men whose voices built some of the most iconic recordings in soul history. I Can't Help Myself, Reach Out, I'll Be There, Bernadette, and Gordy let the contract lapse. In 1972, the Four Tops signed with ABC/Dunhill, and just like that, one of Motown's foundational acts was gone. The reasons were primarily business-driven. Holland Dozier Holland, the production geniuses who crafted most of the Four Tops' greatest hits, had already left Motown in 1967 following a bitter legal and financial dispute with Gordy. Their departure left a creative vacuum that the Four Tops felt immediately and deeply. The material being assigned to them was simply not at the same level. In lead singer Levi Stubbs was too professional to complain loudly, but the frustration inside the group was real and growing. When Motown relocated its primary operations from Detroit to Los Angeles in the early 1970s, a move that felt deeply symbolic to many of the Detroit artists who built the label the Four Tops chose not to follow. They were Detroiters to their core. Motown was no longer the community institution it once was. At ABC/Dunhill, they quickly scored the massive hit Keeper of the Castle, proving Gordy wrong without ever needing to say a single word about it. What stands out most about the Four Tops story is their dignity throughout. Levi Stubbs never publicly tore into Berry Gordy. The group simply went somewhere they were valued and let the music do the talking. That quiet professionalism in the face of institutional neglect says more about their character than any interview ever could. Number 6, Gladys Knight.
All through your ins and outs, your
Gladys Knight and the Pips were not Motown's priority, and Gladys Knight knew it from almost the very beginning.
fears and all your doubts.
When the group signed with Motown's soul subsidiary label in 1966, they arrived with an already established reputation from their previous work on Fury Records.
No, it really doesn't matter.
They had talent, experience, and a following.
But we've given you a
What they found at Motown was a label that was already overloaded with acts it considered more commercially important.
home and you're just throwing it away.
The defining insult came in 1967 when Berry Gordy and the Motown team held back Gladys Knight and the Pips' version of I Heard It Through the Grapevine.
And I won't sing without
The group had recorded it first. Their version was electrifying, and many who worked on the sessions believed it was the definitive take.
eyes. You've hurt me more.
But Gordy sat on it, then gave the song to Marvin Gaye. And Marvin's version became one of the best-selling singles in Motown history. Gladys and the Pips eventually got their version released, but the timing and the framing made it feel like a consolation prize. By 1973, they had seen enough.
You understand, and I'm telling you, I
Signing with Buddha Records, the group immediately unleashed Midnight Train to Georgia,
can't. Why should I care about your feelings?
which won the Grammy Award for Best R&B Song and became one of the defining recordings of the entire decade.
When you don't give a damn about me.
Berry Gordy had Gladys Knight for 7 years and never once gave her a song worthy of that voice.
Mine, well, I don't want to.
Buddha did it in the first year. The contrast was devastating. Think about that for a moment.
No, I couldn't care less.
Motown sat on I Heard It Through the Grapevine, one of the greatest songs ever written, rather than let Gladys Knight own it.
I couldn't care less about.
She had already recorded the definitive version, and Berry Gordy chose his pecking order over artistic truth.
I've gone on with my life.
And Gladys Knight spent the rest of her career proving exactly how wrong that decision was.
It really doesn't matter.
Number 5. Martha Reeves. Martha Reeves's connection to Motown went deeper than almost any other artist on this list. She did not simply sign with the label she worked there first. As a secretary and receptionist in the early 1960s, she answered phones, filed paperwork, and watched Motown take shape from the inside. When she got her chance to record with Martha and the Vandellas, she poured everything she had into it. Dancing in the Street, Heat Wave, Nowhere to Run. These were not just hits, they were anthems. But the relationship between Martha Reeves and Berry Gordy's inner circle deteriorated painfully over the years. Reeves later described feeling increasingly sidelined as the Supremes, and specifically Diana Ross, absorbed more and more of the label's attention and resources. She was not wrong. By the late 1960s, the promotional gap between what Motown did for the Supremes and what it did for Martha and the Vandellas had become almost impossible to ignore. The situation was complicated further by health struggles that Reeves faced in the early 1970s, including a period during which she stepped away from performing. When she was ready to return, Motown's enthusiasm was minimal. The label that had given her a career as a secretary before she was even an artist showed very little loyalty when she needed it most. Her 1974 departure was not announced with fanfare. It was quiet, under-publicized, and in her own words in later interviews, deeply painful. Martha Reeves built Motown's legacy with her own hands twice. Martha Reeves eventually went into politics, serving on the Detroit City Council from 2005 to 2009. The woman Motown discarded went on to represent the very city that Motown abandoned when it moved to Los Angeles. There is a poetry in that, and a sharp irony that Berry Gordy never had to answer for publicly. Number 4. Marvin Gaye. Marvin Gaye's relationship with Berry Gordy is one of the most complex, painful, and ultimately destructive partnerships in the history of American music. Gaye married Gordy's sister, Anna, making this not just a business relationship, but a family entanglement that would poison both his personal and professional life for over a decade. By the early 1970s, Marvin Gaye was done making the smooth, polished pop soul product Motown had built its brand around. He had something to say about Vietnam, about poverty, about love and spiritual crisis, and he was going to say it. Berry Gordy famously resisted releasing What's Going On in 1971, calling it uncommercial and questioning whether it would damage Gaye's image. Gaye refused to record anything else until Gordy relented. The album was released and became one of the greatest artistic statements in the entire history of recorded music. But winning that battle did not mean winning the war. Gaye's personal life was collapsing under the weight of a failing marriage, crushing tax debts, and substance abuse that Motown's infrastructure did nothing to address. Financial disputes with the label were constant and corrosive. When he finally left Motown in 1981 and signed with Columbia Records, the settlement came at a devastating personal financial cost. He was essentially paying to be free.
Oh, baby.
Sexual healing at Columbia gave him a commercial rebirth, but by 1984, Marvin Gaye was gone, killed by his own father the day before his 45th birthday. The full weight of what Motown lost and failed only becomes clearer with time. And here is what haunts this story. Most Marvin Gaye spent his final years living in self-imposed exile in Belgium and England, hiding from debt collectors and his own demons. A man who made Motown hundreds of millions of dollars died broke, broken, and far from home. If that does not tell you everything about how Berry Gordy valued his artists beyond their usefulness, nothing will. Number 3, the Jackson 5. The Jackson 5 arrived at Motown in 1969 as the most electrifying young act the label had ever signed. Berry Gordy knew exactly what he had. He also, from the very beginning, made sure they knew exactly who was in control. Motown owned everything: the name Jackson 5, the recordings, the publishing, the creative direction, the image. The family signed away more than most people realize. By the mid-1970s, the tensions were no longer containable. The Jackson brothers, particularly Jackie, Tito, Jermaine, and a rapidly maturing Michael, wanted to write their own songs and produce their own material. Motown's model was built on in-house production control, and Berry Gordy was not going to surrender that leverage for anyone, no matter how talented. Every request for creative autonomy was rebuffed. In 1975, the family made the seismic decision to sign with Epic Records. The cost was significant. Jermaine, who had married Gordy's daughter Hazel, stayed behind at Motown in one of the most painful professional family splits of the era. The remaining brothers brought in Randy as a replacement and became the Jacksons. Their first album with Epic produced Enjoy Yourself, and what came after, particularly Michael's solo trajectory, reshaped pop music for the next 30 years. Berry Gordy held these boys in his hands and could not figure out how to keep them. The music industry has never fully recovered from that miscalculation. And Jermaine? He stayed at Motown out of loyalty to a family he had married into and watched from the sidelines as his brothers became the biggest act on the planet without him. He eventually rejoined the Jacksons in 1984 for the Victory Tour, but the years lost to that split were years no reunion could give back. Number 2, The Temptations.
So I fool myself long
The Temptations never had a single dramatic exit. They experienced something far more insidious.
as I can. I can feel the presence of another man.
Berry Gordy's Motown chipped away at them for years, cycling through lineups, prioritizing some members over others,
It's there when you speak my name. It's just not the same.
and ultimately failing to maintain the kind of artistic ecosystem that had produced some of the greatest soul recordings of the 1960s and 1970s.
Have you touched my hand? Say you understand.
The relationship between the Temptations and Motown extended across decades, but the creative peak, the era of Holland Dozier Holland, the era of Norman Whitfield's psychedelic experiments,
When I think about how I've heard
the era of voices like David Ruffin and Eddie Kendricks, was inextricably tied to people and conditions that Gordy could not hold together.
you so after you've been so
When HDH left, when Ruffin was pushed out, when Kendricks followed,
good to me, I've been unfaithful, darling.
and each departure took a piece of what made the Temptations irreplaceable.
Sunshine on a cloud.
By the mid-1970s, the group was working with diminishing commercial returns. They briefly left Motown for Atlantic Records in 1977,
When it's cold outside.
producing work that showed genuine artistic ambition, but failed to generate the mainstream impact they needed.
I've got the month of May.
They returned to Motown, but the landscape had changed. The label was no longer the cultural force that had incubated them.
Ooh, baby, I'm losing you.
The Temptations' story with Motown is the story of a label that built one of the greatest groups in music history and then systematically dismantled everything that made them extraordinary, one decision at a time. Of the classic Temptations lineup, 4 of the 5 members died before reaching 60 years old: David Ruffin, Eddie Kendricks, Paul Williams, and Melvin Franklin. Paul Williams, while struggling with illness and financial hardship, died by suicide in 1973 at just 34 years old.
Talking about my girl.
These were men Motown made famous, and Motown was not there when the lights went out. Number 1, Diana Ross. Here it is, the one that defined everything. Diana Ross was Berry Gordy's greatest creation, his closest confidant, his most promoted artist, and as was widely known within Motown's walls, the person many believed held a personal relationship with Gordy that went beyond professional. She was Motown's crown jewel, and he spent years engineering her solo stardom with the kind of obsessive focus he rarely applied to anyone else. And then she left. In 1981, Diana Ross departed Motown for RCA Records in a deal worth a reported $20 million. At the time, one of the largest recording contracts in the history of the music business. The public announcement was stunning. For the woman who had been the absolute center of Motown's identity since the early 1960s, for the artist Gordy had personally groomed, guided, and placed above all others, to walk away felt almost unthinkable. The reasons were complex. Ross wanted more creative control, more financial autonomy, more space to define her own artistic identity apart from the machine Gordy had built around her. She also had significant business instincts of her own that she had never been fully allowed to exercise within Motown's structure. The departure wounded Gordy in a way he rarely acknowledged publicly. Ross would later return to Motown, but the departure itself stands as the defining symbol of everything. Berry Gordy ultimately could not hold together. I made a big mistake, honey. He built an empire on the talent of extraordinary human beings, extracted what he needed, and discovered one by one that talent cannot be owned forever. Diana Ross was the first star he made. She was also, in the most profound sense, the last lesson he never quite learned. And perhaps the most telling detail of all, when Diana Ross returned to Motown years later, it was on her own terms. The power dynamic had shifted permanently. Berry Gordy, the man who once controlled every aspect of her career, her image, and her public identity, ultimately had to accept whatever terms she brought to the table. The student had not just left the teacher, she had outgrown him entirely.
Quick question, are you subscribed? If not, you're part of the 99% who watch and disappear.
we'll be together.
Here's the problem. YouTube won't show you our next video unless you subscribe. So if you want more untold music stories like this, hit that button right now. 2 seconds. Do it before you forget.
Say I